Hey, I'm Robbie Kramer. You're listening to the Leverage Podcast, where we discuss using your social skills to hack dating, travel, finding your dream job, and becoming a complete man. Got Mark Edward Davis on the phone, or on the video call, and we met. It's been it's back in Vegas a few years ago. Speaking at a convention there. And recently reconnected and had a great chat the other day. Went over a ton of stuff and learned a lot about your business, which is a dream connection, and very cool business that you run in Ukraine, helping guys meet women, get married. I'll let you get into all your amazing stats about how many people you've had married. Then the crazier stat, which is the low number of divorces. And you also have the Authentic Man podcast.
Correct.
And that original call we had, you kind of blew me away with some of those topics you were discussing in terms of why relationships work so much better with kind of the old school values of Eastern Europe versus what's going on in the US right now. And it's obvious there's a big problem there in terms of divorces and relationships totally failing. So I'm super stoked to have you on the podcast, man. Thanks for being here.
No, it's fantastic. I'm really grateful and appreciate your invitation here in the midst of my getting back from Ukraine, all the travels I've been doing. But, the thing I got to tell you is this sort of took me by surprise. I married my wife 12 years ago in Ukraine after my kind of quest. I was actually started on a fishing trip 15 years ago in Brazil. I was a single guy at 40. And, I was banging my head against the wall with the dating scene locally a little bit, and a single dad, normal thing. And a buddy of mine and I were just like trying to figure out how does this dating scene work? So we decided to do the study on it. So we kind of had our 3 days a week, we get together with cigars. We were reading some books on masculinity, Iron John, Wild at Heart, these kind of things. And then he made this challenge. He goes, just go on 15 dates. Don't try to do second dates. Let's just figure these women out. Let's figure out what this is about. And so we're out there in the middle of doing this, and I got invited to go on a fishing trip on the Amazon River by the company I was representing. I had a distributorship for this big company, and so I couldn't say no, but it scared the crap out of me. So anyway, after the fishing trip, which is actually just really an amazing story by itself, we're there, and the guy says, would you like to meet some local ladies? And, I'm in Brazil. They have Brazilian women here. Oh, my God, right? And I'll never forget that. It just spending a day with this one delightful young lady who just treated me so well, was so, feminine and just attentive and just curious and wanted to, care for me and proud of her country, wanted to show me everything. And come back to the dating scene. I go, what was that? What was that? And so since I was in the middle of this whole process of exploring myself and dating and the whole thing, I said, is there something for me overseas? I never thought of it. So I went back several times and finally met my wife in Ukraine. And, the story got there. You can read my book. By the way, I do have a book on Amazon.com. Just type in international dating and you get the whole story and what we've been doing lately with the orphans there and all the stuff we do and all my stories and all the rest of it that goes into it. But there's some things that as I got into really, when I got back home and I found this amazing woman, this amazing relationship that was, feminine, soft, and just attentive and a brilliant woman. I'm honestly, at the time I met her, she was working in a factory with 10 women working under her running a shift. And, she was definitely a strong woman. So it wasn't that she was a strong woman. It was just this package that was very attractive to me. And we just blended very well. So
wait, but how'd you get from Brazil? So Brazil was kind of your first taste of non-Western Americanized women, and then how'd you end up in Ukraine?
Well, the path from Brazil went on that fishing trip. I met a couple of other guys, these really cool group of black guys who were, doctor and a couple of politicians out of the city. I won't name the city because that might give away who they are. But these guys were on the trip, and they say, hey, why don't you come with us, back? We're going to go to Rio on a second trip. And so I ended up going back, and I fell in love with somebody on that trip that I wanted to marry, and she wasn't willing to leave the country because she owned a grocery store and she had family, and and I just realized that what I was looking for could be over there. And so I got on this quest to say, all right, I want to find somebody. I want to wake up every day to a person like this. And so I went to Costa Rica. I dated Colombian. I dated other, ladies there. I had one and God bless this girl in Costa Rica, adorable. She fell for me, but I was just like, she just wasn't quite sophisticated enough, and she was adorable. I mean, it'd be an adorable relationship, but it's just not the marriage partner I was looking for in that package. And she just cried when I left. I felt bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. Yeah, you're adorable, but it's not the one.
Yeah.
So I ended up figuring, all right, how do I do this? And this is where I first started looking at these online websites. But because all of my experience had been about face-to-face meetings, I didn't do any website stuff. I wasn't sucked in like a lot of guys are on these websites where they just sit behind their computers and it's like web chat porn. They're sitting here typing and writing and video chatting. Thinking it's dating, and it's not dating, and it's not real, and you can't tell anything from somebody. And I believe in the, more if you get into like the Dr. Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton stuff, you realize there's an energy between people you can only get from being in their presence. And so I wanted to go, but I didn't know where to go. And so I found these websites that dealt with international ladies. So I just looked at all of them. I started looking at Asia, I looked at Latin America, I looked at Eastern Europe, and I started making notes of the ones that seemed to jump out to me. So I kind of made a science out of studying myself. Okay, if we open the world, what attracts me? What am I into? Mm-hmm. And so I kept coming back to Ukraine. I didn't even know where Ukraine was on the map, but the Ukrainian profiles, the ones that kept jumping out to me. So I found about this company that did introduction trips where you can go there and meet a bunch of them. And I said, look, that's all I want. I just want to get me in a room. I want to meet a bunch of them. And their format sucks. I mean, it's really almost a Playboy format. It bounces from city to city. It's not really for a serious guy, but I didn't know. It was my first time out. I just wanted to try something. And ended up in the second city, I ended up meeting, the woman who's now my wife. And she was about ready to walk out the door. And I actually, the sad story is I had written some girl all these letters, and come to find out the girl, the real girl never heard of me. I get to meet the real girl, but she wasn't the one writing to me. It was evidently some translator at some office. And so, I understand the scams. I've seen it myself. Yeah. But so I met after getting devastated by meeting this woman I thought I was going to marry, this Christina, and realizing the girl never heard of me. And I said, well, then I'll meet somebody else here. And so I walked up to this table and I introduced myself. And this girl says, hi, I'm Anna. This one says, hi, I'm Anna. You're both Anna? That's great. It's going to make it easy. I've had a long day, And so it was just kind of cute. So I took them both out. And hang on, I got to. Sure. Got to mute that. I didn't mute my phone. Apologize.
No worries.
And so I ended up taking them both out, and we just had a good time. And so I set up dates with both of them the next day. And the one who is, now my wife went like 3 hours long, and we were just done. I mean, it was like everything I'd been looking for, the chemistry, she was giving me shit. She was brilliant, had some great insights into our culture. And so I started this path. And then after meeting her, realizing, I've got something better than I think anybody else, certainly that I knew of, had in terms of, young, beautiful, intelligent, feminine, all this kind of stuff. And I felt like I found, the secret treasure prize. Yeah. And I came back and just got hit with a backlash of guys going, oh, she just wants your money. She just wants to leave her country. And I'm going, you guys have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's such a stigma for that, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's why I wrote the book, and I got on Dr. Phil and Today's Show, and we did all these couple of cable shows and all these radio interviews to try to just go, look, there are real people past those stories you hear, and most of them are good. In fact, even the U.S. immigration statistics prior to finding my wife was there's only about a 20% divorce rate among U.S. men who marry somebody from another country. So, there's something to it. And so we started a company it was originally called European Dream Connections. And now it's just Dream Connections. And we created those kind of match events just for a guy looking for a life partner who's serious. And we were introducing people face to face. And so since then, 10 years later, we've helped create over 300 marriages with less than 2% divorce. And we learned some reasons why it's so successful. It's a different model, and it works.
It's so crazy, the 2% divorce compared to the, 50 something percent in the US.
And the sad part is, even among the 50% that are together, most of them aren't happy. Right. You know what I mean? So it's just, the contrast is ludicrous. I want to do a TED talk on this as well and get out what we've learned a little bit and write a book, and probably going to write the book on how to have a 98% chance of marriage success, and just like, it's different.
Yeah, I mean, you shared on our last call, you shared one of the reasons. I think you may have shared the second one, but I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can go into those three things again, that'd be awesome, because those were totally mind blowing.
I will.
So, yeah.
The summary is this, guys, is like, first of all, I want you to understand why domestic Western relationships fail. And part of it is there's a great part of the beginning that everybody's great. At the beginning, everybody comes into just as people. They're not in their head. They're just really feeling the warmth. They become very comfortable with each other. They have what we call a honeymoon phase. And like Dr. Bruce Lipton says, because there's a way you can stay in honeymoon the rest of your life, but we screw it up. What happens is, and Dr. Annie Lala talks about this, about between month 6 and 10, there comes some major hiccup where there's a conflict of some kind. And which would be okay if you do the things I'm about to tell you, but most in the West don't. What they do is they go through the standard Western relationship resolution strategy, and it's endorsed by the counseling environment, the American Psychiatrist Association. You have to create this environment where it becomes almost like a business negotiation, where there's equality among the people in there. You
Right.
equally with this person. Can you express, to her what your frustration is? And
It's
okay,
so
now,
bad because it doesn't work. It's so ridiculous.
can you repeat it back to him so he knows he heard you, and what was your frustration? Can you express to him? And then, what would you need? John, do you think you could do this for her? And Mary, do you think you could do this for him? And then you guys would be like, oh, wonderful. Let's all shake hands,
Right.
And then all of a sudden you go from this wonderful thing of love and emotions and elation and joy and happiness to business contract relationships. And the problem is nobody keeps it up. You can't, whatever your deal was, you're gonna forget, you're gonna screw it up, you're gonna be human at some point, and also the other side's going, aha, see, I don't have to do mine, you didn't do yours. And
Right.
it's dead. I mean, you crush the entire dynamic of romantic love, about emotions. The things people get into a relationship for is intimacy, both
Right.
sexual and emotional. And it's
It'd be like
ridiculous.
going on a first date. The shitty first date is usually like a job interview. So
Yeah,
it
right.
sounds like the same thing's kind of happening. And, when you hit that after honeymoon phase, they try to solve it by going into another job interview, and that's not going to work.
Right. It is. It's totally ridiculous. So the big question is, okay, then what's different? What is different about them? Then these three things are, I'll tell you. And obviously there's a longer version of this talk. And if you want to give it to the guys later, I've got a little bit broader expanded version of this at dreamconnections.com/relationships. And it's where I first did this first talk. And it's the foundational piece of what I'm going to share with you right now in sort of a nutshell. The essence is there's three parts to it. First of all, and I got this, my son just got his doctorate in psychology and family counseling. And he sent me this article that supported what I've been saying for years. He says, when you have people from different cultures, you have a guy from South Africa marries somebody from Australia, there's no playbook on how the two are supposed to be together. I don't know. It's like if you marry or date somebody in your city across town, there's kind of this assumption this is how we do things, relationships like this. But when you break the mold and there is no social or cultural pretext to rely on, guess what? You talk to each other and you have a conversation. Well, what do you want to do? What's your culture? I want to know. And there's at that peak place where you're absolutely enmeshed with this woman and you're fascinated with her. You just got to know everything about her. And I want to learn. I want to learn how you think. I want to learn how you feel. And she feels the same way. And also, guys, never get in a relationship where the other person doesn't match your efforts. She's got to be as nuts about you as you are about her. And there's got to be a place where you both just feel comfortable with each other, like you've known each other for life. But I'll get into how do you know when you're in love at another time. Mm-hmm. But if you're in that place where you're both nuts for each other and you're curious, you wanted to learn, you want to hear what their culture is, what their background is, what it always comes back to is the two of you are in love and you're at a place where you're nuts for each other, you're deeply in love, and it's unlike anything you felt, and so you want to preserve it. And what people always do is they give it their own, they don't want to call it marriage because a lot of people don't have a good image of marriage, but they want to call it something. They have their own little pet nicknames for what they are together and how they are, and what she does for him, what he does for her. And so they have this whole description of what our relationship is like. It's special in the world. Who else is, somebody from Canada married somebody from Colombia. It's like we have our thing, and it's ours. And so the benefit is you do that at what I call peak state. When you're at that peak state in the relationship where you're just buzzing and it's all emotions, it's all this flow of energy together. And that's all that matters. Words don't matter. You feel it. You feel each other. And I've had the case, in fact, this just happened literally the other day, because I just came back. I've been apart overseas across the world in Ukraine. And I woke up in the morning and I just had a really bad dream where I was trying to find my love and I was lost and I was in these dark alleys. I was like, a guy tried to mug me, and then I get back to this house and I'm searching through the house, and it was, and maybe it's just because we were apart, I was emotionally expressing that somehow, this feeling. And it was funny because by the time I got on Skype with her, she goes, "What's wrong? I've been thinking about you. I've been waiting for you to write me. I had this horrible dream that you were looking at me. It was dark. It was not a pleasant dream."
Wow.
I'm going, holy shit, are you fucking kidding me? But we do this all the time. Yeah. There's a spiritual connection between people. And, so I'm telling you, this is after years in our relationship, we have this, we still have it, and it gets better. But it's like, if you're in that place where you're both like that, you're connected, I guess you'd say spiritually in some ways, right? You're connected like that. Mm-hmm. Then right at that time, if you can capture like a snippet in time, and describe it and say, this is who we're about. The benefit is it creates a marker that you've identified clearly. You know what it looks like, it feels like, both of you together, of this is who we are. So then when you're off from that, you know where, and you know how to get back to, what it feels like. You've identified it. And we don't do that in normal domestic relationships. We don't. It's not necessary, But because when you're mixing cross cultures, it becomes very necessary to have these conversations. The benefit is you end up taking the honeymoon phase and you capture it as a moment in time, and you relive it, and you know what it's like. You always want to act. Second thing in there, it takes coaching. It's not natural. But what I'm going to suggest to anybody who's listening is that also keep in mind that when you create that marker, when you identify what it feels like to be in love, when you identify what we're like that's unique to the world, what we love about each other, then keep in mind any conflict you have, the purpose for the conflict is to eliminate any blockades or barriers or thoughts or emotions or offenses that have momentarily broken that connection, turned off the valve of love feelings. The goal of any conflict or any argument is to get back to those peak state feelings. And people lose track of this. They think the point of an argument is to win, is to be right.
Sure.
It's not. It's to eliminate the garbage, to get back to those wonderful emotions. So guys, you're the leader. So always lead in that. Any relationship you're in, if there's a point of conflict, the point is, if it's a relationship you value, then you're pointing your conflict is to immediately work with whatever the issue is, so we can get right back to the way we emotionally feel, the way we love, the way we are tender with each other as quickly as possible. Because this is what everybody wants. This is why people have affairs. Like if they start losing that emotion, they want to feel it again with somebody.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, then why not take the one you have that you have been in peak states, and continue to make the effort to break down barriers, break down conflicts, break down anything, so you can always live every day in the state of honeymoon.
So when you're in that, magical state, that peak state, mm-hmm. Is there anything, and you're trying to, I forgot the words you used, but capture that, mm-hmm. that thing between you. Yeah. Is there, what do you have to do that? You have to write it down. You have to talk about it. Is there any physical act, or is it just knowing what it feels like?
It's interesting that you say that. I do a coaching when people come on my tours. Literally the day that we do this prep ahead of time. They do these Skype calls. They get to meet their romance coach. They have a translator, their partner for the week. The very next day, when they're about to meet all the ladies at this dinner event we create, one of the last things I say in my coaching before they go is, I want to teach you how to capture a memory. And I do this exercise with them. I said, when you're in a place where you're feeling good, you're with a woman and this is magical. I said, just take a moment, freeze time, stop the world, and just make a conscious effort to absorb everything in that moment. the colors, what she's wearing, the light, the warmth in the room, the smells you have there, everything about you, the music, the sounds. Just stop time and capture that.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to God, if you will do this intentionally, you can come back to it 15 years later, and it's if you walked right into it and you're live in it. All the feelings, the emotions, the senses, the smells are there. So just the act of being intentional while you're in a good emotional place to remember it and value it and treasure it, you can permanently lock in your head the image and feeling of what it's like to be there.
Yeah.
So
I can
it's
think
easy
of a
to
bunch of
live
them
it.
that I've had with, different girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like, I guess, and I deal with probably 65% of my clients are more of what I call the altruistic personalities, analyticals, amiables, architects, engineers, these kind of things. So they're always looking for the formula,
Sure.
and this is not a formula. Well, it is in a way, because you're programming something back here to lock and remember. And the way you teach it to remember is by giving emotional value of importance and specifics. So
Right.
if you want to be analytical about it, you're programming yourself to capture this moment, so you can always come back to it. But really, I mean, you can write it down if you wish. That's another way to lock it down.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think by emotionally being in the moment, and identifying what it looks like in the sense like I do with a memory, to capture everything around you, you're kind of doing it with the framework of what makes your relationship great. You don't have to write it down. You'll feel it forever.
And are you asking your partner to do that as well?
Together, you're having a conversation. Well, okay. I'm not as analytical to say, will you take a moment right now and just,
right.
You don't have to. Listen,
right.
Women are intrinsically emotional anyway, and they bask in it. And in fact, if you want to always lock in a relationship with a woman so she'll never leave, it's two things. She wants to feel deep emotional connection, and she wants to feel like you're her safe place in the world. Mm-hmm. If she feels like you're her safe place in the world and she has deep emotional connection, you got her for life. That's all she's looking for. And guys screw this up and they forget about it. And if there's a conflict with a woman, you can come back to those two things. If there's something we did to make so you feel disconnected with me, I just want to feel connected with you. I don't know what you're going through. And so you can win every time with women if you realize that. So women are already looking for deep emotional connection. So you, if as a man, wake up and say, I want to just value who we are together. She's like, I mean, it's already there. It's in her. You don't have to teach them to do this.
Right. Okay. Very cool. That, because I could totally relate to the feeling. I've had it many times. And then you obviously know when it's not there. That's the most obvious. And so once you feel like that honeymoon phase starts to end, or starts to go away, what next?
Well, again, when you start having your first conflict, you feel something going away, you got to immediately acknowledge it. And you just go, honey, I got to tell you something. I look back at when we got together and all the emotions we've had, the times we've had. I love that. I want that. I value it. I know you do too. What did we do? How do we get to this place? And let's just fix it, because I just want to have good feelings with you. I just want to enjoy life with you without conflict. And we'll have fights once in a while. I get that. But let's try to get back as quick as we can. What is it? How can I help you? Where do you feel disconnected from me? Where do you feel I'm not safe? What have I done? How can I help us get back there and be the leader, the man? You're not going to get an argument from the woman asking her those questions. Right. Those are the things she wants anyway, but now being the one to lead and guide in that, now she can relax a little bit and rest into it. And this is where, hopefully there's some things you can and can't teach women. Either it's in them or it isn't, how they process their own anger and emotions and issues. And every woman has them. My wife is one where she'll be silent for a few hours so she doesn't give me the vomit. There's the first emotional outburst that just comes and she goes, you don't deserve that. Let me cool down. Let me walk it off and we'll come back to you. Yeah. Other women want to drag the man into their emotional world. And so they're trying everything to drag them in and pull them in and even blame them or things like this. And the more you can stay above it and listen, say, obviously, there's something that's been troubling you, and they just come back to the goal. Listen, I just want to enjoy our relationship together. You mean a lot to me. So how can we do this? How can I help you? But be the calm one in the storm.
The grounded one. And,
all right. You ready for number two?
Yeah. But one more question. Yeah. So why is it so much easier to do this when you have two separate cultures, as you mentioned, versus a domestic.
Because we're lazy. We're lazy.
Yeah.
We're just lazy. You know, honestly, most guys, they're not intentional about, they don't, like with my guys, you know, I go through this process. In my book, it's my second chapter. I make somebody sit down and think about, what are you really looking for? In fact, last night I did my webinar to my audience, and that was about getting clarity. And I did it both on life goals and then on your woman. And I said, what is it like, you know, in terms of how it feels to be with her? And I'm saying, I imagine a day in the life when you've been together for 5 years, you know, and it's this relationship you've always wanted. What is that like? You know, because in our case, you go overseas, and the first thing the guys are, you know, they're surrounded by so many beautiful women because of a different culture, and they care about their beauty. They're very soft and feminine. Very few are overweight, you know, and they're attentive, and they're just, they don't play on their phones. They're just focused on you. And these guys are like, it's a pretty girl, you know, and so they just kind of, it's fun. So we help them with that, by the way. You know, that's why we give them a romance coach, and so they get accustomed to being around. But if guys do this extra visualization exercise of what it's like to be with this woman, most of the time they'll go right to the part where they're just meeting and oh my God, she's so beautiful, and it's about her boobs and stuff. And it's like, no. I want you past that, where you've been in deep relationship, where you value each other. Yes, she's beautiful, but you're accustomed to that. Beauty is part of your life. I want you to imagine a day in your life with this woman, and what does she add to you? What value does she add to you? What is it like to live together? What's your humor like? How do you interact? And if you visualize that, you know, you're going to attract that person to you. It helps you understand what you're looking for. And the problem is that I help guys go through this exercise, which should be done by every guy. But nobody stops to think about it. You know, you talk about goal setting. Okay, but whoever stops to do goal setting? People don't stop long enough to think about, what do I actually want, and where am I going to find it? And what do I have to be to attract that kind of a person? You know, and this is the process. So the thing is, when you're just dating somebody locally, first of all, you're not thinking about really what it looks like. Yeah, I'll know when I feel it, you know. And then guys are just waiting for the dumb stuff to happen. I'm going to bump into the grocery store. So that's what happened.
I'm going to meet her
so
at a park
the grocery
bench.
store, I know, but you know, you find out these girls have, you know, all this damage, and you know, it's been time, and at some point you put so much time and you feel stuck. You feel kind of obligated to stay with them because you've invested so much time, and so you're kind of compromising with, that's not really what I want, but I mean, I don't want to start all over again. And then once you're in the relationship with somebody, nobody goes and stops and says, let's really think about what makes us great. They don't. Nobody stops. Right. And so that's why it's just, we just live every day. We show up. Here she is. She's next to me. I'm going to go to work today. You know, I'll come home. Hey, how's it going? And we don't break these things down. And the part of the multinational relationship is you have to have the conversation. If any guy dating a girl next door would have these tips, it would work for them. It's just in these multinational ones, you're forced to. You don't have a choice. You got to think about it. I don't know your culture. I don't know what's normal for you. Let's work it out. So this is why I think these tips are good, not just for we've learned the secret from multinational cultures, but the secrets are good for any relationship. And I hope guys will do it.
No, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's one of the most interesting and fun parts of dating for me in Ukraine, is just getting to know the different parts of their culture. And, you know, I had a little kind of tiff with a girl I was dating a few months ago. And I was like, see, you seem upset about something. What are you upset about? And she told me what she was upset about. And I'm like, that's so funny, because what I was doing is exactly how an American girl would want me to be. And it's the opposite here. And she was like, no. So you get to learn all these cool little things. And
well, that is something I'd love to ask you about, because I think the guys need to hear that. I think there's a part of it, maybe it's a separate conversation. We have another talk, and I'll be on time and not traveling. But it'd be great to have a conversation with you about, what do we learn about ourselves and masculinity from these women, because they have an expectation they want us to rise into to become this kind of man. And it's really healthy. It's a healthy manliness. It's a healthy masculinity.
So much more healthy than what the the American sort of idea of a man they want you to become is. That's for sure. It's night and day. Yeah.
Brian Beijing, I don't know if you know him. He does men's coaching as well, and some courses on confidence. And Brian did the same thing. He lived in Kyiv for 6 months, and then in it's not
He was
Belarus.
in
I keep saying
Bucharest.
Bucharest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we had the same conversation. He goes, dude, we ought to teach these guys a little bit about what we've learned about being men from spending time with these women, because what they do to elevate us and the package of being a man is, it's life changing, and men need to understand that what they can be. And this culture is, our culture is, it's effed. It's just totally
So fucked.
It is. Okay.
Totally.
I don't know your guidelines on your show, but man, our culture here is fucked. It is so fucked. It's unbelievable.
It's beyond
I
fucked.
come back here and my mailbox is bombarded. Well, I get it while I'm overseas too, but I'm always hit with all these articles and stuff that's going on here. And I'm just going like, God, I don't want to come home. I just stay there.
I dread ever coming back to the US. Like I have to come back in September for a wedding and a family reunion, but I really
No, let me give you hope. It's okay, because the truth is you get inoculated to it. You kind of realize that you're a man of your own. You're from your own world, and you see it around you. And the nice part is your lady, when you bring her back, everybody's wondering, is she going to become Americanized? They're not. If they grow up in that culture, they see the world that way, and they don't. The ones that do are the ones who are children, brought over here as children or teenagers, and whatever you're brought up in as a young person is the culture you adapt. But my wife came over here and saw Walmart fatties the same way I did, and she was shocked by the dirt, the sloppiness, the rudeness, the way couples are to each other, and just until to this day, it's offensive.
Yeah.
And so we come back, and I'm not going to criticize or judge anybody. I just feel like I want to live to a different standard that's more respectful to myself and to other people around me.
Yeah, that just to touch on it real fast, that's the biggest thing I noticed when I come back to the US. I'm like, it's just trashy. Like, it's just
low
trashy.
level.
Yeah, it's like you don't ever really get that feeling in Ukraine, even though it's most of the cities are dumps, right, from like Soviet style architecture and but the people aren't trashy. So,
no.
But going to number two.
Number two is the crux of what I think really is the cultural piece, I guess I'd say, of it that is unique. Like, for instance, number one, I could say I could teach somebody in America, to have a conversation and really identify their honeymoon state and lock into it and come back to it and understand the purpose of conflict is to always go back to honeymoon state. The second one is purely culture. And and I've been teaching this for a long time to my guys before I realized how much a part of the relationship sex. I should have another talk on sex, dude. Seriously. No, but the relationship success formula is built on this paradigm shift that the women have about relationships overseas is different from ours. And honestly, it's more rooted in history than ours is. And the second part of the formula is their belief. Like, for instance, in the West, we believe we're looking for a life partner, and again, this whole concept comes back to this thing about this partnership thing. It drives the shit out of me. So what they're looking for is, they literally use this term, they're looking for their half.
Right.
And it comes from the Greek mythology that originally humans were these powerful creatures that had 4 arms and 4 legs and 2 heads, and Zeus saw the thread of their power and split them in half and separated them to the ends of the universe. And so the idea is that those 2 halves are spending the rest of their life looking to be united together to become one again. And so that's sort of the romantic picture of somebody's like, I'm looking for my other half. Now, what's the difference? Who cares? What does it mean? I can say I'm looking for my soulmate, but it's not. Let me tell you the paradigm shift it is that's so strong. And I first learned this from the very first international couple I met. Her name is Kira. Mike and Kira Moore. They're out of Roseville, California. They're real people. Love them dearly. They're probably married almost 20 years now. 2 kids. But when he met her, she was a doctor in St. Petersburg, Russia. Brought her over, and she did all of her board exams, and she became a doctor with Kaiser Permanente. And she was, at the time I met her, I only knew Mike. Mike was a guy who was really a humble guy, made $34,000 a year working for the county up there, I forget the name of the county up there above Roseville. And he was the county property assessor. So he'd go around and see what, for taxes, and a little low level job, but he was smart enough. Once in a while he'd see these houses like were a deal, and he worked with somebody to get his first house. By the time he met her, he had 27 houses. You know what I mean? So it's like, and he no longer worked for the county anymore. You know, and so he spent his time fixing pipes and stuff like this. He's still a very simple guy, lovely man. And so we would have a cigar and a beer together. And he's telling me his story, how he met his wife. And his wife came out and she was serving us and prepared meal for us. And so gracious and take care of their little 1-year-old. And I'm just seeing the dynamics of this going on, going, my God, this is amazing. And she's beautiful. And she's already been in the U.S. for 9 years. She's still and she said, yeah, she's within 5 pounds of her weight when she got here 9 years earlier. And I'm just watching the way she's attentive and letting us be the man talking. And then when I learned what she did, she probably makes 5 times what he does as a doctor with Kaiser Permanente. You know?
Yeah, right. They do okay.
They do okay. And so then I'm listening to her at dinner, and she's explaining this thing. And mind you, this is a woman who's already been in the U.S. for 9 years. And she's saying to me, you know, it breaks my heart every day. I go to work and I hear these nurses that work for me constantly complaining about their men and really competing with them. You know, and I said, and she said, why would you do that? How would you embarrass your own husband in front of other people in public? And here's the thing she says, she goes, why would you do that to yourself?
That's, I mean, it happens so much. There's so much emasculation that goes on in almost every Western relationship. You know, that's just their main thing. And it's like, you're embarrassing yourself. Like you really are. And it's crazy that they don't see that. It's so obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, that's the benefit of this international mindset, and a guy in leadership can you know, take a state early in the relationship and describe this and say, this is the kind of relationship I want to have. But it's about, and this the same thing in Thailand, in Colombia, they're very about the social circle, the family, who they are. They don't just represent themselves, they represent everybody. So in other words, a woman in Ukraine, I'm telling you right now, this is the honest to God truth. You want to know the number one reason why a woman will not leave her house, even to go to the grocery store in Ukraine without being dressed up? It's a fear. The fear is somehow if she went out sloppy or in sport clothes or didn't have her hair together, she looked like shit, she went to the store, somebody who knows her mama would find out and say, I saw your daughter today at the store and she looks so bad.
It's true.
That would horrify them. I mean, seriously, it would horrify them. So they never, because then it would make their mama look bad and embarrass their mom in public. And if they're married or with a guy, they wouldn't want to embarrass their man by ever looking bad in public. You know, and so they feel like they are a representation of these people in their social circle, especially when they get to an intimate relationship with their man. I mean, they represent him. Yeah. And you represent her. They would never, ever think about embarrassing you in public. That's the sacred circle. You don't do that, you know? And so there's a part of where when you realize I am part of you, you are part of me, I represent you, you represent you. If you're hurting, I'm hurting. And if I embarrass you, I'm embarrassing myself. And this paradigm shift from two rugged individuals who are negotiating a deal to be together, more like roommates with benefits, if that, you know, and it kills the emotions and it kills the trust, kills the sense of intimacy. And if you do this shift understanding that this other person is your half, it's your other half, you complete each other and it goes back to the Bible in Genesis 1 where it says, and the two came together and they were made one flesh, you know, and so we've gotten away from that, but in these traditional cultures, they have not. And they're looking for their half. And I tell guys, when you're dating, say, hey, I'm here looking for my half. Yeah. And I said, you know, trust me, use that phrase. It's going to resonate.
Sorry, the dog is barking here at the door. I don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, so it's Wiley, come here, shut up.
I love it.
He only barks when someone's coming to the door. Mila, get Wiley out of here. I'm recording something. Put him in the bathroom. No, put him in the bathroom. Placebo. Sorry about that. So it's the other half versus the life partner is really the distinction, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Because when you're looking, if it's your partner, then anything they do, it's like it's your fault. You know, you're the partner in this, right? Versus the other half, it's like, how can we do this together?
Well, and in the partnership model, there's almost a payback built into it. You didn't hold your deal up, so I don't have to hold mine up. Or you should do extra for me because you didn't do this right.
Right. Yeah.
Who wants that? Who wants that?
It's totally just, this is another business arrangement, like you mentioned. Totally mind-blowing stuff and makes
never
all the sense in the world. Yeah. I don't know. I went through a streak of only dating girls from Eastern Europe, and then I went back to an American about I don't know, a year and a half ago, and it it reminded me of all the reasons why why I left in the first place. Yep. So what's number 3?
Number 3 came from an observation I made, and I couldn't figure out how to put it in words because we have too many platitudes. If I were to tell you it's about being others aware, those words almost drop to the floor dead. And so, in the moment, in fact, it was the day I did this longer recording. This whole thing came to me. It's funny if you listen to this recording. I don't know where you give them link references, but dreamconnections.com.
It'll be right below the podcast. So yeah. What was
it?
Yeah,
they'll get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here we go. We'll type it in. So it's at www.dreamconnections.com/relationships. The fun part about this particular talk was Chris Dwellette runs what we call Tribe Talk on Monday nights. So it's kind of like just for the guys themselves to talk. We get married guys in there, and they're all mentoring each other, and they're new guys just coming in. So Tribe Talk is a cool thing. Tuesday webinar is more teaching. It's broad to the public. It's more interviews, this kind of thing. But anyway, I'm listening to Tribe Talk with Chris, and he's got 2 of the married guys on there trying to describe what makes the relationship great, why it's cool. And they're floundering for words. And so while I'm being frustrated on this drive listening to it, and I'm going from Idaho, I barely got coverage. I couldn't call in and get on the show. And the whole thing came to me about the picture, all 3 of these pieces, and the whole thing came to me in one road trip. So the next day was my show on Tuesday, and I did the whole thing like a man on a mission. I put it together, and it just, all the pieces came together after all the years of doing what we do. This picture is so important, and it came to me from a Japanese culture. So I want you to understand this picture for a second. I was at dinner with a good friend of mine, Todd Nesbitt. I love this man dearly. He's one of the most giving, generous, kind, hardworking, perfectionist. He was a film executive, and for a while I was working in Hollywood. And so he says, Mark, let me take you to lunch. I'm going to take you to this Japanese place for sushi. I'm going, I've been to sushi before. He goes, no. This one's actual authentic Japanese. So we go in there, and the waitresses have the big kimonos with the poof pillows on the butt. I don't know what that's about, but it was all this authentic stuff. They're little wooden shoes and these little what do they call this, gardens with the little bonsai trees, and all the sand is raked into little shapes and shit like this, right? I was ready to be sitting on the floor. I mean, it was that kind of a feeling, Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't make us sit on the floor, but we had these nice wooden tables, no backs on the chairs. We would sit up, and you have these tables. Well, he ordered some Sapporo beer and some sake, and which is great for me. I love sake. And so we're sitting there having dinner, and I'm just fascinated now. He lived in Japan for 3 years, so I'm sucking the life out of it. Tell me more. I'm just so fascinated. You got to tell me what it's like, and I love the time being with him as a friend. And so he tells me, tell you what, let me first of all start before we get the dinner going with this Japanese tradition at dinner. He goes, they have these big pitchers. So like Sapporo, there is like this monster bottle. I mean, it's like almost like I don't want to say it's 2 liter, but it's this big bottle, and the sake is a bigger sake thing, and then you get your little glasses in front of you. He says, now in the Japanese dinner with a friend, you never fill your own glass. You fill your companion's glass, and you wait and let them fill your glass. Oh, that's cool, man. Oh, here you go. Here you go. Okay, great. So we're talking. I'm just going in, like having a great time. Just asking him all these questions. Also realized probably a half hour passed by, and both of his glasses are dead dry. And I'm going like, oh shit, that's my responsibility, And I'm like, and he's like, dude, it's okay, it's no problem. And I'm telling you, this guy was so gracious. If I forgot him for the next 3 hours and didn't give him a drop, he still wouldn't have said anything, But that's the whole thing, So I filled him up, and then all of a sudden I'm feeling like I'm the shit here for not doing it. So the rest of the night I'm like, I'm checking his glass and make sure he's good, right? I'm just good, right? You're good, okay. And the funny thing was, I realized in doing so, there's so much of a shift in your mind Now I'm aware of his need. Now I'm thinking about him. And I'm realizing I accept responsibility that if there's a need he has, that's my responsibility to fill. I'm not responsible for filling all of his needs, but this is mine. I want to make sure he's good, as a friend, as a buddy, as just part of my relationship with him. And if like, for instance, later, if I were to notice he's hitting the sake more than he is the Sapporo, maybe the guy's, he's really suffering with something. He needs a shot. He needs a good, are you okay? There's something going on in your life, then I become others aware. And by the time I got out of that 3-hour lunch, I just felt like a changed person, because I felt like I actually had more connection with him. I was thinking about somebody else, in addition to enjoying our fellowship. I was aware of him, his needs, and I just felt elevated as a person. The second example of this came from my wife when she first came here from Ukraine. I had an 8-year-old son, and we were coming back from the grocery store, and she told him to make sure to put the cart away, in the rack where you put the carts. And I'm just going, yeah, well, those are the rules. And we teach the boy the rules. And she goes, no, that's not why. Okay, then why would you put the carts away if it's not because of the rules? She's, because that space doesn't belong to us. That's going to belong to somebody else after us. And we don't want to intrude on it's not ours to intrude with theirs. Why would we clutter up somebody else's space after us? Who thinks like that? Who thinks about the person who's going to be in the parking space after you're gone?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Most people just throw the carts into someone else's car.
What the frick? Who cares? But I've learned this about all the Slavic women. Mm-hmm. They're constantly aware of how everything they do affects the world around them, the people around them, cultural. They don't throw trash on the ground. Mm-hmm. They don't. They're just, there's a different mindset about everything they do. That everything they do, they're cognitively aware of others in the process, and there's a grace and dignity to it. And I'm telling you, you'll say the same. Like, by the time you come back home to the U.S. after having spent a time in a culture that is family oriented, focused on their core with loyalty, such loyalty that are respectful and dignified to everybody else around them. We come home, we go, God, we live in a land of fucking pigs.
Yeah, we really do.
But at the end of the day, when you're in a relationship, if you realize, and my wife would always check with me. She goes, hey, babe, you bored? You want to do something here? How are you doing in this? How are you doing this? And sometimes I'm upset. Or you even say, hey, we haven't eaten X in 2 days. Do you need something? Or if I'm upset, she'll go, hey, I can't have you upset. Come on, what can I do? Did somebody offend you? Who do I have to kill? It was just taking this part of like, you're part of me, I'm part of you. I want to make sure your needs are filled. And when you're both doing that for each other and aware and take responsibility to say, I want you happy. I want you feeling good. Did you eat today? I'm drinking something. Do you want to drink too? And, it just becomes a different mindset. And here's the cool part about it. When somebody's doing this for you, they're constantly in tune with you. They're asking you, how you doing? Can I do this for you? Hey, don't worry, but let me do that for you. Just go do your thing. It deepens such an appreciation for that person. You just go, wow, I'm loved, I'm cared for, and somebody's got my back. They're attentive to my needs. They're aware of me, and you can relax. And
well, I heard recently that when you do a favor for someone else, it makes you like them more. So well,
that's true. There's many things like that. Like if two people laughing together creates an emotional bond between, because you see the world the same way. There's several things like in those studies, they'll say like, if you do this for them, it creates likability. Mm-hmm. In fact, in the book, Likability Factor, great book, on those kind of things. But yeah, if you do something for somebody else, you inherently, you have a likability for them. So therefore, that's one of the things that happens. Guys who fall out of love, it's like, I don't feel the same for the other person. Well, because you're being an ass. You're just not caring about them. When you don't care about somebody, it deteriorates to I don't care. Right. And the whole I don't care thing just, kills emotions. And look, at the end of the day, everybody just wants to wake up in love. They want to have, I don't care who you are. I deal with this with guys all the time. I get guys in their 50s who fall in love again. And they just go, no, I don't know if I've ever felt this way. I feel like a teenager. You feel giddy in love. It's about feeling fully alive. You want to feel fully alive with somebody. And so this is what we hope for. And this formula will deliver that.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I love it, by the way. It'd be a great TED Talk to get this out there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And and I've witnessed it, obviously, being out here, and it's just, I wasn't able to articulate why the relationships were different. But that really clears it up for sure. And it's just so easy compared to all the, little bullshit that I've dealt with relationships in the US, and not to mention the girls are so much better looking anyway. So,
it's interesting, and you'll appreciate this, because I get this inherent, just don't like, what's wrong with women in your country and this kind of thing. And the interesting, the Ukrainian women, they idolize our movie stars. They see our ladies in movies, and they see they're all, attractive, well-dressed, they're sexy, and all this kind of stuff. And so they think that's sort of the American model, and not the Walmart fatties. But, honestly, if women in America were attentive to being just healthy body size, just attentive to their physical fitness, their healthy body size, that they cared about their beauty, appearance, how they dressed, they cared about how they carried themselves, and truly just enjoyed being women, they would be just as beautiful as any others. And I think this is the thing that sets them apart. That's unfortunate for women in America. They're trained here and taught this culture to be competitive with men, to fight in the man's world, to be a man in a man's world, to compete and to be aggressive and to carry masculine traits. And that, plump women are on the front cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, and it's
all this love your body no matter what, you're beautiful, big is beautiful. It's like, well, you can think that, but I'm looking at it and it doesn't look beautiful. What do you want? It's just so much bullshit. So yeah.
Well, and they're not happy with it either. Honestly, no, they're not.
It's a lie. They know it. Yeah. There's no,
because anybody knows that if I just did this, this, and this, I'd be healthy.
Right.
But I don't want to. That's like hard work.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then be fat and just admit it. I am fat and unattractive.
All right.
Right. I mean, one or the other. So, and that's just true with everybody. It's like either be disciplined to become the person you're supposed to be, or just say, I'm an undisciplined slob, I'm fat, and I accept it. That's just who I am. Because I choose that negotiation in life. I'll pay the price for being obese and unhealthy, or I'll pay the price to be healthy. Either way, you're going to pay a price. You pay one now and you feel good about yourself. You live longer. You pay the other one later in pain and misery and early death.
Yep.
And I say that from a place, I another part of my story was only 3.5 years ago, I was 250 pounds, and I'm only 5'8.5", 5'9" on a good day. So, I'm very big.
Yeah.
And I just saw myself in a picture, because in my business, we were featured on the front cover of the major Ukrainian news outlet and on the center of their website. And there were 4 pictures in there. A couple of them were cute. They didn't look bad. One of them was me walking with the guys into an event, and this profile of me sideways, I had this massive fat jugular like this, and my shirts were I always had my shirts untucked, because it was like wearing a muumuu, right? and the belly stretching the fabric in the middle. And I'd never seen myself like that, and I had this wake up call, and I said, never again. And so I've never gone back. Now I'm, trying to take my body even to another level and get into bodybuilding. But man, I lived 25 years as an obese man. So, I'm not unsympathetic that it happens in America. And every time I come here, I have to fight not to put on weight, because there's hardly anything healthy here.
Yeah, you can't find healthy food. That's the other thing. It's like, no matter where, even if you go to the grocery, that's a whole other topic, but it's just, it sucks. It's, yeah, but congrats on losing the weight. I lost 60 pounds back in 2011. And
wow, good for you.
Yeah, I'm about your height, 5'9", 5'10". And I was 215 at my heaviest, and dropped down to 155, which was a little too light, but it's always a struggle for me. I've got to really, stay on top of it, because go on vacation for a week in Italy last week. I jump on the scale. Oh, there's 1.5 kilos. So,
yeah.
What did you do to lose the weight?
But then you go back to Ukraine, everything's organic, everything
Right.
is vegetables with every meal, and now you know I lost I lost 2 kilograms in 1 month that I was there
Yeah.
last month.
And you're walking more. It's just
Of
just
course,
a much
of course,
easier culture to stay in.
healthier.
Yeah, exactly. What did you do to lose the weight back when you?
Well, when I had my panic and my meltdown, I immediately did two things. One, my diet was I basically had one full meal a day. In the morning I'd have a protein drink and oatmeal and cuts, and then I always had sliced cucumber, tomato, and bell pepper on a plate. And I was chewing that down. After the workout, then I'd go to the gym. I'd go to the gym every day. 2 days of the week, I'd do a 2-mile run. The rest of the time was weight training. And then during the day, then in my meal at night, I would have just an apple, a handful of nuts, more protein drinks, lots of water, so I was not being hungry. Then at night, I would just have this meal that was purely either fish or chicken breast and vegetables. But these restaurants are great. I mean, no complaints about that dinner. And so that was my caloric intake in my diet. And then the weight training, I kept trying to figure out what would work for me to build muscle and things. And so at first I just lost the weight and my shape wasn't looking good, but then I kept trying to learn about me and what works for me. So the other thing was accountability. The first I initially lost like 25 pounds of mostly fat. I wasn't in shape. Then I did a boot camp program for my guys. And so every day for 12 weeks, I had to do a report-in video. But so since I'm the host, I had to show up and do it. But it was that accountability that I had to show up. And I find the real secret is just consistency.
Yeah.
I think cheat days are bullshit for guys who are already bodybuilders. You've already achieved the goal. I think that we fall off the wagon too quickly if we allow ourselves those things. But on the other hand, I did allow myself every day. This sounds silly, but obviously it worked for me. Every day I'd have an ice cream cone from McDonald's because I learned there are only 120 calories. I go, I don't care what's in it, 120 calories, And so for me, I felt like I got my little sweet every day and I loved it. So I didn't feel like I needed a cheat day and I never went off the wagon. I stayed with that program. But I think the real lesson I learned that the major shift in my body to something healthy was just do something every day. You go to the gym and you hear these guys, no, it's all about, you got to go heavy sets, man. You got to do low reps. Other guys go, no, you got to do 20, 30 reps. No, you got to do CrossFit. No, you got to do this. You know what? And you line them all up. They all have healthy bodies. The secret is they just showed up every day and did something.
Exactly.
It almost doesn't even matter. Yeah, almost doesn't even matter which program they did.
Yeah.
But every day they showed up and they did something that tested, stressed their body, and rested. The next day came up and did it again. So to me, it's just pick one. I don't care if you want to bicycle every day, you want to run every day, you want to do high intensity, low intensity, you want to do spin classes, but just you got to show up 6 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week. You can take a day off on Sunday and just whatever, but your body doesn't need to recover as much as you think. They think you need 3 days. Well, look, you're not working the same muscle 3 days in a row. You give yourself way too much break, and people give themselves way too much rest between sets. The trainer I'm using now, it's almost none. I mean, she'll do a triple superset, and then, I swear to God, it's not even 45 seconds. Kate, run it again.
Yeah.
And there's no break between 3. Okay, run it again. And we do that 4 times. And then I get like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. She goes, okay, here's the next superset, 3 different exercises, back to back to back to back without stopping. And then I'm telling you, 45 minutes later, I am done. And I watch guys get the same kind of workout for 2 hours in the gym. It doesn't take 2 hours.
Right. You keep your heart rate up, and I think you burn more that way, and you feel great after the workout, like you actually fucking did something. Because I've worked out with people before where they're lifting heavy, but they're resting and on their phone checking Instagram for 5 minutes between each set. I'm like, what? This isn't a workout, bro. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And I have other shit to do. Come on. Like, I don't have time for you to be. But I want to back up and ask you, I didn't realize before that before you started your business with the Dream Connections, you kind of attended another shittier version of that. And how did you, that probably gave you the idea, and you probably saw how you could do that better. And how did you
I started by the time I got to thinking about doing this business, I'd already been married 4 years. And I was actually approached by somebody else to do a documentary and kind of do a tour. And we were kind of redeciding what that would look like because we didn't want it to look like the other format. So we kind of did clean slate. Let's pretend there is no industry. Let's pretend there's no online dating. Let's pretend there's nobody else doing this. How can a guy who's been out of his country before show up in a foreign country, feel comfortable, have somebody there by his side, have a pleasant experience, and come away with a relationship? So we kind of just cleared the chart. Now, obviously, in my brain was the only example I knew was this other one. So there's some pieces of it that were similar, but there's so many things that are different. It's very different. But they would do a social where they would get the little agencies they work with to bring and pack it in. So there'd be like 200 girls in a room, all sitting at tables, and then the guys would come in and you're on your own. Okay, you have to on your own figure out to go sit at a table and try to introduce yourself and have a conversation. There's no structure, and you get scared to death. It's horrible, So it's not even like speed dating where they bing go to the next table. No, it's just like here they are.
To a nightclub.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, you can't speak
and then after 2 hours of this thing where you try, then they do make it a nightclub. They turn dance music up and all the girls come out and dance, and now it's this hot, sexy thing with the girls dancing. But it's like, you're not going to find a wife that way. I mean, it may be a great thing for a single guy to go over and, flirt his ass off and find some phone numbers and try to bang some chicks overseas, but to me, I was ready to wake up every day with something like this. So I just felt like I needed to reinvent the model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And tell us more about the model, if you don't mind. Cause you told me before, but it's fascinating. It's super cool how you do it with the translators and everything.
Yeah, we call them romance coaches because they're just way more than translators. Honestly, the fact that they do translating is like 10% of the work they do. It's phenomenal. And so in our program, it's called the Quest Romance Tour. It's 9 days, and it is about $5,000, but includes your hotels. We give you a cell phone when you land. We have 4 catered events, your personal assistant, all included, plus the before and after. Once you get into our program, you realize how much we do to make sure guys are successful. And so in the beginning part, you have a couple of Skype interviews with, whether you're going to Colombia, it's with Tatiana. If you're going to Thailand or Ukraine, it's with Irina, or sometimes my wife, Anna. And we basically want to, first of all, orient you to the program and then find out what you're looking for. So we're going to have you go through our website, come up with a list of 15 or 20 ladies out of our website that say, yeah, this is kind of like the woman I want to meet. And we say, why? What does that mean to you? Because we know all these ladies. These are our girls, and we don't advertise for them. We get people coming in all the time, and I've interviewed almost 100 of them. If you go to the testimonial section of our website, there's a whole section with the ladies I've interviewed. And most of them will say they're here because their friend got married or something else. So by now we've grown to, it's all referral. Mm-hmm. And, people know good people. So I think that's the important part. So anyway, we go through this process of answering his questions, and Chris will help, make sure his flights are scheduled correctly. And so guys arrive, and let's say for you, our flagship program is Nikolaev, Ukraine. So you fly into Odessa, and we meet you at the airport. You're never alone. And I recommend guys come a day early so they get time adjusted. And then the next morning we'll get up, we'll do sort of this fun walking tour of Odessa, the history, the beautiful sights. And then 2:00 we get on the big charter bus and do our little 2-hour drive to Nikolaev. Get you checked in your hotel, and then you get to meet your romance coach. Well, your romance coach is wonderful, very brilliant, relationally savvy Ukrainian girl. And we already give guys a chance to have a Skype call with her before they come. So they've already had a chance to get to know each other a little bit. So now you get to meet each other and really talk in person and figure out how to explain your story to the girls and what you're going to do. Also, before you come, you're required to go through my training videos. I've got 6 training videos that go from how to make a good impression, what are the girls thinking, how to answer their questions, how to work with a romance coach, what's the proper expectation for a week, and what do you really expect you can do in 9 days, how to make the girl feel connected with you before you leave town, so she doesn't think you're just on a pleasure vacation. Create a relationship, start, at least boyfriend girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. Not proposing marriage after 9 days. Never expect that. And then when you leave, how do you keep the fires burning and really keep the momentum going till you can come back and see her again? So all that training video is there. So when a guy shows up, he feels pretty good. He kind of gets how the system works. So after the dinner where you meet your coach the next morning, I do my coaching brief about what to expect today. Even though they've seen the videos, they know how it goes. And then we go into this really cool dinner restaurant, huge restaurant. And the ladies who have been invited typically is like 80 to 100, sometimes 120, depends on how many guys are coming. And the ladies are invited personally based on the guys coming. So like we learn from each guy what, and so we go, okay, I think this because we personally invite the ladies to come based on the guys who are coming and the number. So typically we get anywhere from 15 to 25 guys, just depends the time of the year, the tour. And so you and your romance coach come in the room. The ladies are already sat at tables, about eight or nine tables. And so you just spend 15 minutes chatting. 15 minutes is a good enough time. You're not trying to date them. You're not trying to decide if this is your wife or not. You're just trying to see, is there some cute spark of energy? And there's a couple of videos on our site which are examples of what happens sitting at the table having this kind of conversation with the girls. It's fun. It's very playful. It's light.
It's one-on-one or it's a group?
No.
Okay.
It's like four girls plus you and your romance coach. It's like,
gotcha.
Yeah, it's like 6 at a table. And it's better because one-on-one's it's too intense for strangers.
Yeah, I agree.
It's horrible. It's awkward. It's like, and it's like, but if you're in a group, somebody's always got a question. Somebody's always keeping the energy going. Somebody's interested. You're interested in them. So there's always good dynamics in a group setting that takes the pressure off. It's not that kind of speed dating thing. It's very relaxed. And I say, look, at the end of it, your only goal is when you get up is just to think, was there somebody there that just felt like it'd be fun to spend another hour with? That's it. You just want it because you're going to ask people for one-on-one dates afterwards, And then at the end of 15 minutes, the guys get up and the romance coach stays and she privately asks the girls, would any of you like to go out with him? And then the girls have to give a phone number. So the girls have to say, I like them too. So there's always mutual interest that starts. And then when two people like each other, now your romance coach makes the calls or before you leave, she's already booking up a lot of them saying, hey, when are you available? You said you're interested in John. He's interested, and felt good about you too. When can we get together? And so typically guys will set up 1 or 2 dates that night and then they'll start booking them the rest of the week. We come back the next day and a whole new group of ladies, you do it again. And so that way we're kind of front loading the week with meeting all of the different available women that we know. They're there for same reasons, looking at the same things you are. And so we don't have any instances of scams, plus you have a romance coach. She's your BS detector, your bodyguard. You couldn't ask anything and get through your bodyguard.
Right.
So it's just a very comfortable environment to just honestly try to follow your heart so you find connection with and follow the chemistry. Follow those who are following you, and then the course of the rest of the week, we intersperse it with some things that are not related to dating. We do a trip to the orphanage. We support the orphans there if guys aren't on a date, if they want to come. We do a karaoke night, just no dates allowed. Let's just get away from the dating. There's some fun. At the end of the week, the very last day, we do a finale dinner. It's kind of prom night. Everybody dresses up. It's a beautiful environment, looking over the river, kind of a thing, and celebrating, see who started relationships. So that's what we do, and it's been incredibly successful. 80% of our guys will start in relationships, sincerely. And like I said, we've had a total of over 300 married and less than 2% divorced. And we help a lot. I mean, honestly, even after the guy leaves, we end up, there always have some conflict, some misunderstanding, and we're trying to coach the guy off the walls, and that's not what she meant, or the girl, so we could take her to coffee. Honey, it's okay. He's an American.
Right.
He didn't mean it like that.
Right. How often?
I swear to God, half the marriages we have wouldn't be there if we hadn't pulled one of the two of them off the wall and, said, and then okay, I get it now.
Yeah, because the cultural differences. How often do the guys end up falling in love with their romance coach?
Not at all. And really? Because we hire romance coaches that are married.
Okay. That's smart.
And yeah, we had to, because we've had, we did have in the early days, we've had 3 of our romance coaches marry, but it wasn't their own client, which is interesting. It's not like the 2 of them fell in love from working together. It's just one of the other guys who happened to be on the tour and they felt a connection. And it was really interesting because one of the guys had to wait until she finished working with her client. So they didn't even start dating till 11 or 1 in the morning, after she was done helping the other client. So, but that's part of the process. We've learned that it helps the guy get used to being around beautiful women. Your romance coach, we tell the romance coaches, dress down a little bit. You always want the dates to be looking hotter than you. So, I mean,
sure.
It's still a good question.
Yeah, that's smart to hire the married ones. Cause I mean, obviously, you're going to connect with your coach. She's probably going to speak much better English than the other girls. So I can see that being a big problem.
Well, listen, I mean, when people do their Skype call with my wife, it's obvious she's married. When they Skype with Irina, she's very private about her life, and she's a beautiful woman too. And I swear to God, she says half of every guy who I Skype with asks me if I'm available. So it's like because there's a progression.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to your dating back home, when you get to spend a half hour, 40 minutes on the phone with a very feminine, attentive, Ukrainian woman who's really truly wants to help you and is into you, you feel like, my God, I've never seen this before. And then, so first they fall in love with, the interviewer, and they fall in love with their romance coach. And then by the time they get to meet 100 of them, they realize, I get it. There are plenty of them here. So it's like you get out of the scarcity mode, right? Like, oh my God, I've never seen one like this. I'm sure this is the only one. And you go, oh, I get it. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. So if guys want to find out and book that, they just go to dreamconnections.com.
Yeah. You know what I'd really encourage them to do? And we have grown as a company purely on our YouTube videos. We have like 800 videos on YouTube right now. We do something almost every day. So what I'd really suggest the guys do is if they you get on our email list, so you get notified, and subscribe to our YouTube channel or both. But go to dreamconnections.com, and at dreamconnections.com, there's a case study. The homepage right now is a case study, and we rotate it, but you'll see different places where you can, subscribe and get on our email list. Also next to the logo on the top left corner, there's something that says romance tours, and click on the Nikolai one and watch the video. You can see what happens every day. You can see what's included in the program, and a big blue bar to fill out a profile form. And it's easy. What I really recommend you guys do, because we're kind of more at advanced stage in this conversation, is just go ahead and fill out a profile form, because it's no cost, and you get to have that interview with Tatiana in Colombia, or Irina, or my wife, and you get a sense of somebody from that culture, and it's valuable to you, very valuable. And so that's all for free. And that way you make sure that it's something you want to do before you do it, or, we don't want your money if it's not going to be fit for you, or you for us.
Sure.
So that's what I'd suggest.
Perfect.
And if you want to get a hold of me personally, mark@dreamconnections.com. I answer all my own emails. Not a problem.
Yeah. Thanks for giving that out to people. And, yeah, man, I'd love to have you on again as a guest. There's so much more stuff we can talk about: dating, tips, masculinity. Thanks so much for being on. And let's do it again soon. Thanks for listening. If you want more, go to innerconfidence.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for the latest episodes.